The practice of negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building requires knowledge that spans many professions and academic disciplines. The NCRP comprehensive exam focuses on the student being able to write conflict stories and spot issues in conflict stories, position statements, vignettes, case studies, simulations, role plays, and so on. Part of studying for the comprehensive exam and showing you can apply your knowledge is through writing an original conflict story. Best practices in andragogy include higher order thinking through self-directed learning and student-written exams. NCRP practitioners must use critical and independent thinking, requiring higher order thinking skills to evaluate complex conflicts and wicked problems. A comprehensive exam for NCRP graduate students should include best practices in restorative andragogy, critical and independent thinking. NCRP graduates should be able to spot the most significant issues in an instructor-created exam, analyze a peer-created exam, and create their own comprehensive exam. The research methods that most closely fits issue spotting is a case study analysis. The comprehensive exam is a combination of telling conflict stories and spotting the most significant characteristics and issues. According to Wikipedia, conflict is a major literary element that creates challenges in a story by adding uncertainty to if the goal would be achieved. The literary classification of conflict includes man against man, man against nature, man against self, and man against society. More contemporary classifications could go into man against the machine, smartphones, social networks, artificial intelligence, or man against robots. The conflict stories communicated through position statements, vignettes, case studies, simulations, role plays, and so on. NCRP practitioners must deal with a variety of conflict stories. We learn about conflicts through observations and stories. According to Winslade and Monk, people do not just make up from nothing the stories that they tell each other. From the cultural world around them, they draw on a range of resources and borrow ready-made narrative elements and then fashion these elements into a format intended to meet a communicative purpose. Our most interesting observations will then be told as stories or narratives. Conflict stories go beyond recall by allowing students to apply the course learning objectives into a story, tailoring the conflicts they have experienced, read about, or imagined. Conflict stories can be used in creating role plays, simulations, and for this capstone. To get you started, I will provide what I think are qualities of a good conflict story. A good conflict story includes a description of the parties, the setting, the issues, differing interests or positions, and a sequence of issues an NCR practitioner can use for analysis. The story may also include agendas, inflammatory conversations, tactics, interventions, or an accounting of the cost of the conflict. A good conflict story includes the dialogue among the parties and observable behaviors. The story can be resolved through best practices in negotiation and conflict resolution. The assignment is to spot issues from conflict stories. However, practitioners need more information than just listing issues to solve problems and make optimal decisions about the conflict. Practitioners need to summarize the most important conflict characteristics and issues. Each conflict story has characteristics that influence a practitioner's decision regarding the optimal conflict resolution process. RAFA lists several conflict characteristics in the form of organizing questions to analyze a conflict. The characteristics include the number of parties, relationships among parties, or institutional context, number of interest, complexity of issues, cost of the conflict, time constraints, necessity of binding conflicts, linkage effects of the issues, and attempted processes, or interventions. Each course in the NCRP program introduced concepts, variables, and characteristics of conflict and conflict resolution processes. I have attached a table with a non-exhaustive listing of issues for each course. Students should be able to spot at least 5 course-specific issues. The NCRP comprehensive exam involves a student being able to spot the most significant characteristics and variables in a conflict story. This process takes different names across different professions, such as identifying fact patterns, reflecting, summarizing, paraphrasing, listing, issue spotting, and so on. Negotiators, mediators, arbitrators, and group facilitators need to identify the most relevant conflict characteristics and issues when the parties are sharing their stories. The foundation of communications in conflicts deals with gathering and validating details about the stories through reflective listening, paraphrasing, rephrasing, and summarizing. According to Stewart and Maxwell, members of social groups construct and reproduce stories that explain their experiences and also create realities around beliefs and wishes. Negotiators listen to stories for common interest. Mediation processes include giving the parties an opportunity to share their side of the conflict story, whether the endgame is a facilitated resolution, a transformed relationship, or creating a shared narration of the story. Issue spotting is like summarizing, which is a common step in negotiation, mediation, and facilitator processes. According to Bush, the summary offers the parties a clear overview of what they've addressed and where and how they differ, and gives them a platform for making choices about where to move next. In sum, students should be able to deconstruct a conflict story to spot the conflict characteristics and course-specific issues. The variables of the conflict story include number of parties, relationships, institutional context, the number of issues, the complexity of the conflict, cost of the conflict, and attempted intervention. The course-specific issues would focus on ethics, theories, research methods, communication, negotiation analysis, or third-party interventions.